Well, I got off work early today. Been up since 2 a.m. and I thought the best thing I could do is film a wrap up for October. I didn't get as much reading done as I thought I was going to, but I also read more than I thought I was going to, if that makes sense at all. I had a lot of plans this month that included reading a lot of spooky stuff, but it just didn't work out. I did start the month off with an absolute banger though, and one of the final things I needed to read to complete my quest of reading something from every single author on the Dungeon Master's Guide Appendix In. And that book that is an absolute banger is Hyro's Journey. This thing is so incredibly good. I have a review written for it. I'm going to film that this week, but Sterling E. Lanier is really, really good. And here's a fun thing. Look at that. I don't know if you can see it from here. Chilton, the same company that published Dune. And Sterling Lanier may or may not have been very important in the publishing of Dune. Might have cost him his job. I'll get into that in the review. But yeah, Hyro's Journey is fantastic. One of the best dystopian science fiction fantasy novels I've ever read. It is super obvious how much it inspired Dungeons and Dragons. After that, I had one last thing to read for Appendix In, and that was anything written by Andrew Offutt. So I decided to dig into this Thieves World anthology. This is an anthology omnibus, or an omnibus of anthologies, and this is really, really good. This is a book club hardcover edition, so of course I had to have it. I think I have like 6 of them. But yeah, this is so good. It has all of the absolute heavy hitters of this era of science fiction and fantasy. You've got Poul Anderson, John Brunner, C.J. Cherry, Philip Jose Farmer, Joe Haldeman, Andrew Offutt, A.E. Van Vogt. I mean, it's just one thing after another. These are so good. I'm finishing up the 3rd anthology in this omnibus right now. The first one is just called Thieves World. The second one is Tales from the Vulgar Unicorn. And the last one is Shadows of Sanctuary. Now, the Andrew Offutt stuff in here is okay. I found out that he wrote a lot of dirty novels, and it kind of shows in this. He spends a lot of time writing about, let's say, a busty, heavyset older woman. It's kind of weird. But yeah, the Andrew Offutt stuff is good, but the Zelazny stuff, of course, is amazing. And all the writers in there are really good. I think that shared world anthologies might be a new favorite of mine. And well, speaking of shared world anthologies, let's talk about the one that was inspired by Thieves World. Wildcards, edited by George R.R. Martin. This is so good. I mean, it's superheroes, edited by George R.R. Martin. He wrote some of the stories too. The one that stands out the most is, of course, the Zelazny story, The Sleeper. These are so incredibly good. Everything so far I've been like, it's so good. It's so good. Out of these 3, I'll take this all day. Wildcards. Woo. Talk about grimdark superheroes. It comes pretty close. Like, it's real. There's a couple of things that happen that are like, woo, but it's a product of its time, the late 80s. And that goes for Wildcards 2, Aces High, even more so. There's a couple of things in here that kind of suck to read. There's a homophobic character in it, and he uses a homophobic slur a lot for a couple pages, and it was straight up not a good time. But the rest of it is absolutely amazing. There's some serious stuff that goes down in this one. You get to see the first generation of superheroes and like the newest generation of superheroes, and some of them aren't even superheroes. They're like straight up villains, but they're fighting off this existential threat. And you see these young ones that like, they can't cope. Like, they're new heroes. They straight up have PTSD at this point, and stuff gets real in that one. And it's so good. I cannot wait to start the 3rd one. I'm going to start it in November. I should finish it. Same with the last Thieves World anthology in that omnibus. And yeah, I can't wait to get back to them. Now we have, unfortunately, a DNF. Not a DNF because it's bad, but a DNF because I just wasn't feeling it. And I will say it's not as good as the first one. And that's Creep Shadow Creep, which is the sequel to Burn Witch Burn by Abraham Merritt. Burn Witch Burn is fantastic. Creep Shadow Creep is good. It's just not as compelling as Burn Witch Burn. Now, I think one of the problems is this book is twice as long as Burn Witch Burn. So it's taking a lot longer to get to where I want it to be. Oh, and this is a UK hardcover from the 1970s. It's like super rare. I like it a lot. It's just taken a long time to get to where it needs to get to, and I just got bored and I just wasn't feeling it. And so I just decided to move on. And I moved on because it's NaNoWriMo coming up. I decided to just dig through the Writer's Complete Fantasy Reference, an indispensable compendium of myth and magic from the editors of Writer's Digest books. Introduction by Terry Brooks. Like, the introduction's cool, but most of this stuff is so much easier easier to find online. It's like a bunch of different little essays or informative guides about different things, and just watch YouTube videos, especially from like YouTubers you trust. They'll have just as much information as these, but it'll be a nice visual medium instead of looking at some weird sketches in this book. Also, if you use this as a guide for writing fantasy, you're going to create the most tropey fantasy story ever. One of the very first things you get in here is how to create a fiefdom, like hardcore medieval fantasy. And it's like, nobody wants that anymore. Like, I don't want to read a book about a male dominated monarchy anymore. Like, it's boring. Like, it's been done. It's like, at what point was it mandated that fantasy had to be a monarchical hierarchy dominated by dudes? It's a fantasy world. Why can't we have like a democracy? Like, we had a democracy 2,000 years ago, and it's like, why isn't there one now in your made up fantasy world? Why does it have to be strictly following like medieval rules? I mean, there's magic. Like, the rules don't apply here. And last but not least, I've got to grab it real quick. So fancy editing or something right now. The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. This book is so unbelievably good. Book Club edition hardcover. I started reading it because Jimmy from the Fantasy Network posted in his Discord that he had started it. I was like, ooh, well, I want to read along with someone. So I started it over the weekend, and the audiobook is very good. I really, really enjoyed it. I was listening to it while I was working in the cold. So that was a fun, immersive experience. If you've read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, I finished it an hour ago before filming this, and it's absolutely amazing. I will probably do a review of it, but I think I'm going to do like a double or a triple review. I might just cover all of Ursula K. Le Guin at once after I finish The Dispossessed in a month or two. She deserves her own episode where I just cover her. She's so good. That was my October books I've read. I did start All the Pretty Horses by Cormac McCarthy, and I really, really like it so far, but I read before bed, like every night before bed, and this book's messing with me. Maybe it's just his writing, but I'm having like really weird lucid dreams. They're stressful. I mean, this story's not even stressful yet. I don't know what I'm getting into. It is a Cormac McCarthy novel, and I will say I absolutely love it so far. But I think I have to take a break. So 2 reasons. One, I need to get some sleep where I don't have crazy lucid dreams that are just weird. And 2, I'm starting NaNoWriMo, and I don't think that Cormac McCarthy's writing style is a good thing to have rattling around in my brain when I'm trying to form coherent sentences. I will end up trying to mimic him, and nobody needs that. I'm not Cormac McCarthy. Anything I write that's a pastiche of Cormac McCarthy's style is going to be horrendous. So I think I'm going to go the Joe Abercrombie route and read something completely different than what I plan on writing. And yeah, I just don't think I should be influenced by Cormac McCarthy's writing style while I'm trying to write for NaNoWriMo. So I'm going to be reading something else. I'm not sure what I'm going to be reading yet. I looked over to see what I was going to be reading next, and I remembered something I wanted to share. I started All the Pretty Horses, and the very next day I found a first edition hardcover of the sequel, The Crossing. So yeah, this thing's beautiful. It is mint. I need to get some Brodart dust jacket covers. Starting to freak out a little. Yeah, I just went through all of my books as part of this October wrap up. As you can see, probably on the edges of the frame of the footage, I have a lot of books sitting around right now. I went through and counted with my daughter. I'm up to 1,245 books before I purged them. I've even read some of those books, and afterwards I realized I had only gotten rid of 29 books, so right around 2%-ish. I'm hoping to slow down my book buying soon, but the problem is I keep finding tons of really good books I've either read and want copies of or plan on reading, and I'm getting them for like 50 cents, $2. Oh, speaking of which, I got to share one other thing. This isn't a book haul video, but I got to share something that's absolutely amazing. I got myself another copy of Lord of Light, another book club edition hardcover. This one's pretty rare, even for like a book club edition. It's in rough shape though. You can see it's got a little damage over here. It's kind of tore up, but once you put it in a Brodart, it'll look really nice. I don't think any one person can own too many copies of Lord of Light. I mean, you have to loan them out. You have to read them with other people. My wife is finishing the first book in the Black Company, and when she's done, she said she wants to read Lord of Light with me. And I just read Lord of Light a couple months ago, but I immediately was like, yep, let's do it. I could read this book every other month. I don't think I would ever get tired of it. The other thing I found, by the way, these were each like $2. I love The Old Gods Waken by Manly Wade Wellman. I loved it so much that I pre-ordered the hardcover collection of all of the Silver John novels from Hafner Press. as soon as I saw that he had them in the warehouse and they were going to be shipping sometime in the next few months or whatever, I hope. So I pre-ordered those. But while I was out, I found The Old Gods Waken, a book club edition hardcover in really, really good shape. I found The Lost and the Lurking, another book club edition hardcover in really good shape. And After Dark, another book club edition hardcover. Look at that thing. Beautiful. But yeah, I found some absolute bangers lately. Without a doubt, my best vintage science fiction and fantasy haul I've ever had. And it was only like $30. I'll probably talk about them at some point. But yeah, this has been my October wrap up, monthly update thing, whatever we're going to call it. I'll figure it out as we go. Maybe in the next few months, it'll have a real name. I'm hoping to get out one video a week during November. It's NaNoWriMo, so I'm going to be really trying to focus on actually completing it for the first time. If I do any extra videos, they'll probably be me discussing NaNoWriMo. Not really what I'm writing. I don't want to do that. I feel like every time I talk about what I'm writing, I end up not writing it. It's like when you go around all day telling everyone, I'm going to go work out. Yeah, when I get off, I'm going to lift some heavy weights, blah, blah. By the time you get off work, you're tired and you're like, your brain's kind of convinced you that you did work out by talking about it all day. So yeah, I don't want to talk about what I'm writing, but I might talk about the process itself, maybe give updates. But other than that, that's it for this wrap up. Hope you enjoyed it. If you like this video, I've got lots of reviews. I've got some book hauls. I'm really proud of one of my more recent videos where I talk about learning the writing process to become a better reader. I highly recommend it to anyone that's watching. It's just one of those good things. Like if you enjoy reading books, learning more about the writing craft will enhance your enjoyment of the books you're reading. Well, if you like this, give me a subscribe, like the video, leave a comment if you've read any of those books. I'd love to talk about them. Any suggestions for what I should cover? I'd like to do more videos that are about topics and less individual books. So you got any ideas on that? Let me know. And I'll see you next time.